Today's episode of Passionate Talk is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audio download and 30-day free trial at books.passionatetalk.com. There's over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Get your 30-day free trial and free audiobook at books.passionatetalk.com. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of Passionate Talk. I am your host, Gary Karp, and this is episode number 36. My conversation this week is with relationship coach and alternative lifestyle counselor, Aisha-Sky Gates. Aisha is the author of the book Unequal Partnerships, a dating guide for loving non-egalitarian relationships. She's going to talk to us a little bit about the difference between egalitarian and non-egalitarian relationships and why what everyone is really looking for is not to be treated equally, but to be treated fairly. So without further ado, I want you to grab a cup of coffee, perhaps some tea, and get ready to listen to this week's conversation with Aisha. And yeah, I am an old geek from a long, long time ago. And
I'm not the spin chicken either. I'm 63. How about you?
Wow, I am 52, and I've got to say, from your picture, you look fantastic for 63. And please, in this current environment, do not bring me up on sexual harassment charges on that comment. It's just a compliment.
Yeah, I'm 63. We might make that part of the interview that I grew up across the 60s and 70s.
Actually, I started recording about 2 minutes ago, so it is part of the interview. So I did look at the press release that you sent, and I started reading the free preview of the chapter. I've got to admit, it's a very interesting take that you have on relationships.
Yes, I have a unique niche. I believe that our society has set us up to be very separated from each other. Individualism is all about, I've got to defend my little piece, and I expect you to be defending yours. And that's no way to go into a personal relationship. In my opinion, it's no way to go into a business relationship, but that's aside, right? That's on the side. My business is on the most intimate level. And I think that where spirit has led me to do work is about changing the world. Everybody wants love. Everybody wants to feel safety and stability, but we don't design our personal relationships for any of those.
And I agree with you. Myself, I am divorced once, married once, engaged twice. Actually, I'm divorced twice, married once. It's a very interesting story. And I do happen to agree with you that we get into these roles that society has us play that we're supposed to play, and that does set up for us for success or failure, most of the times failure. So let's talk a little bit about that, because that's, I think, a really great way to discuss this non-egalitarian relationship that you talk about in your book. And of course, that book's name is Unequal Partnerships, a dating guide for living non-egalitarian relationships, which is a mouthful, but it does say exactly what it is. So before we get to answering that question, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about what an egalitarian relationship is and why you're taking the opposite view and professing that may be a nice alternative?
Yeah. So Americans are kind of crazy about the idea of egalitarianism, even though, as I talk to people all over the country, nobody seems to know what that concept is, and yet they sort of think, oh, it sounds like equal, so I'm for that.
Yes, liberty, fraternity, and eagles, the French motto. That's the motto of the French resistance.
Then,
That's exactly what it
then
was.
they apply what they think is egalitarianism in their personal relationships, and this idea of, well, everything has to be equal, but what they're after is fairness. And working with people, I realized, oh, that's what you're actually wanting and scared you're not going to get. So on the one hand, what you're after is you want to make sure that you were treated fairly. If you and I, Gary, went to lunch, and then we'd have to figure out how are we going to pay for this in a way that you walked away feeling that you were treated fairly, right? That I didn't take advantage of you. So, so our societal
Absolutely.
setup is, I'm a little bit afraid of you. I'm going to have this little worry in the back of my head. And so I'm going to try to negotiate quickly with you about how we're going to pay for the meal. Um, in our personal relationships, we do the same darn thing. We're, uh, we're worried about being treated fairly. It also means that you get the other side of that coin, which is fear, a fear that you won't be treated fairly, even in the face of someone you profess to be so in love with.
Now, you bring up an interesting point by saying that we all want to be treated fairly, and that is true. That's all we're really looking for, in my opinion. We're looking for acknowledgement and fairness in every one of our relationships and every one of our actions that we do on a day in, day out basis. The basis of the book, as I read through the press release and as I started reading through the introduction, was unequal relationships, that you're not on equal footing. That, and to my mind, what that means is one person, male or female, is going to be the dominant and one is going to be the submissive. And to my mind, in a dominant submissive relationship, you cannot have fairness because of the structure of the relationship. But it seems that's what you're putting forth as an alternative to the egalitarian relationships that society tells us we need to have. So, how do you marry that concept?
Sure. So, of course, so if I'm saying that Americans are crazy about egalitarianism, even if they don't really understand that, and then I am I need to add a couple of things here. It's that we have good social science research that says that American couples may start out on an egalitarian basis, but over time, there'll be a slant in power and control in the relationship towards one of the two. So holding a truly egalitarian relationship is difficult. It does not mean that nobody has such a thing. Um, we do, but we have the belief that widely this is what we have, and furthermore, this is what we should shoot for. Otherwise, someone is being taken advantage of. And that's not true. First of all, because that's not what we have. So, research shows us, the literature says, that largely what we think of as egalitarian, those really aren't. If I go in closely and ask questions, I'm going to find out that there's a little tilt there. And in some cases, there's even more of a tilt in power and control towards one of the two, right? And,
Oh, yeah.
and, uh, and that the
Yep.
couple there, they know that there is. They don't talk about it, but they know. So if I ask further questions, yeah, they know. Um, that's another problem in my mind, that we our lives are so dictated by where power lies, whether we're talking about personal relationships or not, and yet we don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to talk about power or control. Now I'll switch to what is non-egalitarian. There are thousands and thousands,
Okay.
we can't count, we don't know, but there are an awful lot of non-egalitarian relationships, couples who aren't shooting for that first elusive model. They are deliberately creating a hierarchy in the relationship. And here's where misconceptions come in that the idea that if you aren't deliberately creating egalitarianism in your personal relationship, it has to mean that somebody is being treated unfairly, somebody's being taken advantage of, that someone's being dictated to, somebody's being controlled. And none of those are the case. Absolutely none of them.
Mm-hmm.
How about that, Gary?
That is actually very interesting, and I happen to agree with you in this because I never use the labels egalitarian, non egalitarian, but there is a certain natural power structure that gets set up in the relationships as we know it, whether it is the breadwinner holds the power or the person who holds the power in the bedroom runs the relationship. It's always there, but we do not speak about it.
Yes, thank you. So that's right. So um, you and a dear friend of yours, if you look closely, you could ask yourself questions about, well, where's the power in this relationship? Where's the control here? And perhaps it's equally held. Good, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly. And I know from my own personal experiences, I wasn't honest with myself in looking at that power dynamic and how it shifted from dating to engagement to marriage, because there was definitely a shift in the power, even though both of us did not recognize it and did not acknowledge it. And I think it was one of the main reasons that I'm no longer with that person. So it is important that you are honest with yourself and honest with your partner to look at the relationship and not only see where the power resides, but to also collaboratively decide how you want the relationship to work and where you want the different power areas to be.
Yes, so that's one of the areas that I work in teaching couples how to be deliberate in their choices so they're actually setting up really good conditions under which they can have anything they want. They can have their personal happiness. Um, Gary, my background is in organizational development. And we organizational development consultants, we just don't give a care about how big or small the organization is. We
Okay.
can work with you, whatever it is. So I've worked with enormous national organizations with big $1 million budgets. But I've also worked with my kitchen table orgs. They were always social service oriented.
Mm-hmm.
And now, at this time in my life, I'm a relationship coach and alternative lifestyle counselor. So, my organizations that I'm working with are two people, or if it's a poly household, maybe it's three people. Um, but let's stick with the couples. Two people. That's it. And those two people can come to the table with each other in a non aggressive kind of way, a, a collaborative way to meet their needs. They can have that attitude of, we have needs. And you look at your partner or your prospective partner, you see the beloved's face, and you want that person to successfully get what they need and their desires met. You want that so much that you give up a focus on whether your needs are going to get met.
Yeah, and you used the term while you were talking alternative lifestyle. And that's gotten a big play and become part of the, oh, let's call it the societal zeitgeist in recent years. And a lot of people, when they think of alternative lifestyles, especially now, will think in terms of 50 Shades of Grey, right?
Yeah, that's a shame.
Which, and that's where I was going, thank you, because they think of the BDSM lifestyle, and the only touchstone that they have for that is 50 Shades of Grey, which is not what that power dynamic is about. And perhaps the way you were describing it, and I'd like you to go a little bit further into it, is really what the BDSM community, the alternative lifestyle community, the polyamorous lifestyle is about. It's about meeting your partner's needs honestly and setting up that power dynamic. I know I have several friends who are in alternative alternative relationships with that dominant and that submissive. They may use different terms for it depending on where they want to go, but it's really that, and it is, in my opinion, probably one of the healthiest ways to live your life. So, for anyone who thinks alternative lifestyle is BDSM and all they know of it is
Yeah.
50 Shades of Grey and some weird kinky porn they've seen on the darker sides of the internet, how would you describe how it is truly a healthy relationship to them?
Yeah. So I'll try to pick things apart here. For one, when we say alternative lifestyle, it doesn't necessarily mean kink.
Yes, absolutely. I'm using it in that regards, but you're 100% correct. Yes.
So alternative lifestyle is just an umbrella term that, yeah, is picking up popularity. And I'm glad. I use it to refer to a beautiful phenomenon that I think I'm witnessing these days, and that is that people feel freer to design for their needs. That's all it means. So that they might be making choices that are different than what their grandparents did.
People feel freer to express their needs. And that's a beautiful statement because it goes to what I think all of us want, which is authenticity, to live the person we truly are, which goes back to the concept of fairness that we touched upon earlier. What you are teaching in a large degree in relationships specifically is letting people take off their masks and saying, no, you don't have to have the fairy tale. You don't have to wait for your Prince Charming. It doesn't have to be 50-50. Yes, that's the beautiful thing. Partners walking forward in a 50-50, totally equal relationship. But that may not be what you need.
Yes, let's pick up from there. That may not be what you need. So for a lot of people out there who have discovered the non-egalitarian relationship, they take a big breath, Gary, oh, and let it out, and they are so happy together that they've created a deliberate slant in the power and control in the relationship. It's deliberate, it's very mindful, it's meditative mindful. It's so deliberate. They talk through what their needs are. They negotiate, and we'll have to talk about what I mean by negotiate. It's not business negotiations. And it's negotiating our needs collectively. What are we dealing with here,
Okay.
and how are we going to meet those?
Okay. It sounds like really what you're talking about is open and honest communication, which should be something that is so obvious to people, yet it isn't.
Yeah, because we've think about when you or I, when we were in grade school, and we were walking around afraid of what other people thought of us. We were always trying for status. We were little kids, and yet we were always trying for status. It's like,
Yep.
oh, he doesn't like me today. He doesn't like me anymore. Well, why is she talking to him over there, but she's not talking to me? Right?
Okay, you just took me back to every single day of my high school career. Thank you.
So, 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 so this wasn't just you, was it?
No, 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 but it is me.
So, so we got we were enculturated very early in life to look towards status and to pick up the mask, to cover ourselves and not be authentic. We have strong research that shows that babies get it about power and control in their parents' relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Infant know who's holding the goods here.
Yep. And babies know it really well because they learn very often. And we were talking about my cats earlier, and the cats learn, it's very Pavlovian in a way that the baby will cry or the cat will mew or scream. And all of a sudden, the parent will go to the baby, or in my case with the cats, I will go and pet on the cats and coo over the cats and love with the cats. And again, it becomes almost Pavlovian that you get this
Hmm.
idea that, okay, if I scream, I get attention. If I do something in a certain way, I get attention. If I am submissive in a relationship, even though I want to be the strong one, I will get more relationships. And people keep telling me that I'm good. And you start to act that way because you get that reward at the end of the journey. So, how would you recommend for people to break that cycle and really look to within themselves and say, okay, this is who I am. Now let me go find it.
Yeah, so that's now you're hitting on why I wrote the book.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
Yep, there's the book for you. I actually wrote the book in very broad language. You do not have to, you the reader, do not have to pick up on any kind of kink references. There are no labels, right, that are from the BDSM world. Um, Instead, I and a lot of other counselors were finding ourselves with more than a handful of clients who don't want a kink identity. They're not interested in that. They're scared they're going to look like 50 Shades of Gray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to be able to benefit from what we've learned in alternative lifestyle communities, kink and otherwise.
Yes.
So we've learned a lot about about what it takes to be a successful couple, to build sustainability, to build a home environment that actually supports individuals' growth. So I'm going to give an example that is contrary to what I'm saying to make the point. Um, we have we have lots of beautiful young couples out there who are very well educated. For the moment, I'm going to make in my example a male and a female when it doesn't have to be. Um, so he says to her, "Of course, we want to support your career just like mine. That I wouldn't think of it any other way." Yeah, but
Yeah.
then time passes here and they've set up house and they have a baby or two. And she finds this is typical that she finds herself doing many jobs. She's the executive at work. She runs that company.
Mm-hmm.
And then she comes home and changes those diapers. Why didn't he change the diaper? Um, or if they have someone else doing it and now they both just got home, still, why isn't he at the door to greet her and just see to her? or give her a little bit of eye gazing to say, sweetheart, I see you. I really see you. Like no one has given you regard as through your day, but I'm here. I'm your partner. So it isn't necessarily about changing the diaper or who's going to make the meal, but it is about connecting as the equal partner. And what I would like to see, this partnering, it is more likely to happen in the non-egalitarian relationship, Gary, than it is in the supposedly egalitarian one.
So in the egalitarian relationships, how much do you think that's caused from just during the dating phase, all the men is just the woman, and this is going to sound very sexist and very chauvinistic and very misogynistic, but we're geared in a lot of ways to view the woman as the prize, something to be won. And so we will do the flowers, we will do the candy, we will do the dinner, we will do the back rubs and the foot rubs, and we will greet them at the door wearing nothing but a smile when they come home. And then when we get them, well, the battle's been fought and won, and we feel we don't have to try anymore. How much do you think that takes place in an egalitarian relationship for the reason that things fall apart?
Okay, so the scenario that you just gave, I have in my background. I had a boyfriend who who just knocked himself out to woo me in the very old-fashioned sense. He really did a great job. Wow, how could I not pay attention to him? And wooing worked to make me just melt and really he got everything that he wanted. I really wanted him. All right. Later, he worked on me again to convince me that we should get an apartment together. All right, we did this. Then I started noticing that, all those niceties went away. He came home and he plopped himself down to read the paper. And I'm wondering what's going on here. So I asked him, I talked to him, and he was very clear, and he was a very honest person, thank goodness. And he said, no, I did all of that. I did what I was supposed to do. Now I'm able to sit back. But we can't do that in our relationships.
Yeah.
It's sort of like what I said in the book, that if you thought dating comes down to worrying about what you're going to wear on the next date, well, good, fine. But you accept the consequences of thinking at that lower level.
And I think so, dating is set up by society as just a means to an end. I read an article on some blog page the other day that said that marriage is not an accomplishment. And so many times we've been indoctrinated into believing that marriage is an accomplishment, especially for women in this society, that dating is just a means to an end. So all they do worry about is trying to please the partner, trying to woo the partner, trying to be sexy for the partner. And they don't think beyond the marriage, beyond the ceremony and the big party. And that's really, in my opinion, where the heavy lifting begins. Aisha definitely dropped some truth nuggets there for us. Her definitions of an egalitarian relationship versus a non-egalitarian relationship really brought the point home for me that what we're looking for is not equality in our relationships, but fairness in our relationships. That we should all strive in our relationships to come collaboratively to the table and decide what's best for the relationship and therefore what's best for us, instead of individually trying to meet the needs of our partners and therefore not meeting our own needs. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for this conversation. Aisha will be back with us on Wednesday, telling us a little bit about her personal history and talking a little bit more about egalitarian relationships and fairness in relationships. So I definitely hope that you tune in on Wednesday. But for right now, follow your dreams and passions, and manifest the life that you choose.